In today's life, we do focus a lot on doing and results. And then we don't really look at, what is behind this, or who am I being?
Generally, your behaviour is driven by who are you being, and that kind of sits sometimes below the surface. So generally, if you look at your behaviour, it's largely your ways of being that actually then drive your behaviour. And there are certain other factors that come into that, like your past and your experiences, and but the great thing about all of that is it's all highlighted in the profile itself. From the drivers through to the impact scores, the ways of being that are all in there, the primary and secondary ways of being, through looking at all of those different ways of being, it's pretty easy to start to articulate and for people to understand what drives their behaviour.
I often describe it like doing a diagnostic. If I'm taking my car in to get a service, you'll plug it into a diagnostic tool and it will show me the areas that I can look at or should pay attention to. Or even recently I had somebody come to my house and they did this diagnostic tool which they look for the state of the house with termites and insects. It can show me what things I should do. So the Being Profile is a very powerful diagnostic tool for coaches, which uncovers some of those areas that we can look to develop or reinforce or transform.
What I have now with the Being Profile that I didn't have previously was a way to really dive deep into the core essence of a person, into the really fundamental beliefs and understandings, how they've interpreted the world from a very young age, that show up in their behaviours and their personality. And the cool thing about the Being Profile is when there's a new insight around what a particular dimension of being, like how I'm showing up in this way, once we get that insight, it doesn't require 21 days of discipline for a new habit. That insight can change everything, and that can show up in greater performance, deeper insights, more powerful ways of engaging with the world and interacting, more confidence, more courage, better results.
I had really various interesting experiences with the Being Profile, and one example really pops out is someone who is quite reflective in nature, but probably hasn't done anything like this before. We identified that he had a couple of traumatic experiences, and the interesting thing about it is that he wasn't really aware how much that still impacted him, and it was an underlying issue that he had, and he thought, oh, it's done and dusted. But he realized, while so many areas in his life are working really well, that this underlying issue was still there, and he hasn't really processed it, and he could see that he could actually do a lot more in his life.
One of the first times that I worked with the Being Profile, a particular individual who, I'd only actually known for a short period of time. And, this particular individual, who's become a good friend since then, was kind of at a point in his life where he'd gone through a really difficult time. He'd had a serious injury. He'd had to reevaluate where he was at in his life with his career. And, one of the things, where I really got that this was something completely different was, in one conversation, he was able to really look at where he wanted to take his life. He was at a real crossroads, and we spoke a bit about, who was he authentically? What was really present for him? What was really important to him? And I think what came up for him was, his natural ways of being, the ways of being that we identified through the profile, where he had a lot of strengths. And, by exploring those areas, we were really able to dig into something that was, he was really passionate about. And I could just see his way of being, and when I say that, I mean like he came alive. You could see his aliveness and his passion suddenly come to the fore when he started to talk about what he was really interested in.